Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sarah Chiu. Thank you very much for tuning in. Today I'm going to continue my talk on my language research for the last 20 years. Here it is. I want to show you the basic idea of this whole program. First of all, I want you to see what a basket starfish looks like. And as you can see, it is tree-like, but then it shares a common core. Instead of that, I want to say all languages are related. No language is isolated. No language is above the others, and all present languages are a remnant of the old ancient language that we shared as one. And again, this research is based on a woman's perspective, because I don't believe that for thousands and thousands of years women never had the chance to speak out. So here I am. Here is the theme of the talk. I said it needs to be changed. We shall not look at family as a tree, because as long as we look at that, we will begin to think that we have kind of a hierarchy. Okay, so thank you very much. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my own observation, understand the inventor of writing in ancient China. Legend goes as saying that he actually watched the footprints and tracks of the birds, insects, any kind of crawlers and animals on the sand. That's how he invented writing. So there were times that I spent in the desert, like in the Sahara, like in Tunisia. Any time when I see a desert, I like to look at the sand. And then indeed, I learned a lot more than I expected, from just looking at the sand. Today, I'm going to talk to you about those tracks on the sand. I'm going to talk about two, but as usual, I always prepare more than I can ever finish. So if I can finish two, it would be great. If not, I hope I will continue next time. First of all, let me see. I will show you the slides that I prepared. Okay, bear with me. Okay, language core. So as I said last time, when I show you all the writing about the rope and thread with the H sound, and I already said that our language are actually closer than we thought, and normally we are only confused by our habit of using different grammars. So the attention that we pay nowadays, as the in linguistics, pay so much attention in grammar, I think we should take it in with a grain of salt, because it is the core sound that that link us together, and our core sounds and still existed share the sound, symbol, and customs. Okay, there is a Chinese proverb saying that study 10,000 scrolls is never as good as walk 10,000 miles. I didn't translate it as journey or travel 10,000 miles. Indeed, you have to walk. You have to walk inch by inch, or move in the slowest, mode you can. I don't mean the travel way that we do today, where you take a taxi from home to the airport and then fly all the way to your destination, and then you will just move around in all kinds of transportation. And my mode of travel in the last more than 20 years is as slow as I could. I basically, sometimes I really walked, like in Malta, I walked for one whole month without taking a single transportation. I really walk. I walk from 6:30 to 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock. And in other places like in Tunisia, this is a picture of Tunisia. I actually took my bicycle. I cycled around for one whole month. Of course, I cheated a little bit when I had to go up very steep mountains. You know, I just took, folded up and put it in a public transportation, and that's the only transportation I ever took. And the rest of it, if I can cycle, I just cycle. I cycle around 70 to 80 miles a day from city to city, from village to village, and that's how I learn. So a lot of the knowledge, I believe that you don't get from books, you know, you really get it from the real place, you know, you get it in a three-dimensional way. So this is the first picture I want to show you about the sand writing of what I observed. Writing at the very beginning, you can almost certain that people draw on any surface that they can scratch on. And as this, you know, you can see a form, you know, actually it's a form like two things crossing each other, and I will talk about it later if I have time. But if you look at it carefully, the sand actually provides a surface that gives us much more information than a piece of paper. And you can easily see that, you know, the insect which is walking, you know, on top of this layer, you can see the chronological order. Certainly, even though, you know, it's look like they meet each other, but they actually don't, right? And you see a smaller insect actually crawl. I don't know from which direction actually. Well, I mean, I can tell you from which direction if I am in the whole place. But since I cut it out, you know, you will not know whether it is coming from this way or that way. But of course, you can also tell from the footprint direction. But anyway, you will see that after this insect pass, another much bigger insect crawl this way. So the meeting is not in time. So by looking at sand, it tells you a lot more other than chronological order. It tells you a lot about the physical makeup of the being itself. You know, this obviously is a much heavier and bigger insect than this smaller one and lighter one above. So so there is certain truth, you know, in the record of the invention of early Chinese writing by observing, you know, all those tracks made on the sand. So again now, I am presenting this research as a female from the Eastern perspective of observing the world, you know, of language, and I want to introduce it as a more integrated view other than the pure Western and also academic and male point of view. And I would like to share with you the other picture that I took, you know, when I was on a beach area. Of course, other than if you can compare easily, you can see there are much busier traffic in this area, and actually by the number of tracks you can see here, you can see that the environment is much more survival friendly here, other than that one taken in the Tunisian desert. And you can see birds going around, little insects going this way and that way. They crisscross each other in a different way. But I want to using this picture, I want to show you one very important writing in the English alphabet. It's the G and the J. And first of all, there are two Chinese writing. I don't want to confuse you more than necessary. I just want you to know the meaning and its sound. The sound in Cantonese, again, this research is based on Cantonese, which is a southern dialect, which is very ancient in China. And we say it's jik or zek. And then actually it means to trace the track of the footprint. And even though it's written in the dictionary with a Z, and you can actually, you know, take it as a similar to something like a J sound, okay? And then I want you to pay attention to those three things, like three claws. And coming up here is a real ancient Chinese writing, more than 3,500 years old. And after a while, it actually turned 90 degrees this way. It actually means a claw, a nail, talon, or is we use it as a verb. It means to grip or to grasp. And actually this carries a lot of the bird's mental image, even as a human, if I curl my fingers, at that moment I can call that as a claw, even as a human being. But if I straighten it, it becomes a hand, a normal hand. And you can see the similarity right here, and who's the culprit of this footprint here, we can chase, of course, is something like that, and in ancient time the names were not so specific, so you can see that is one of those kind of bird. And Chinese, there is a writing we call je. Hear the sound right here, okay, je, J. And of course, sometimes we spell it as a Z also. In Albanian, jok is actually bird. And this is Greek, spells this way using the GER, but somehow in Greek, they will, because of the reading rule, follow the G followed by an E, you will read it as a Y, so it will be pronounced as Yeranos this stage. Okay, so but you look at it, it's somehow, we can never be sure that in ancient times some kind of dialectic Greek might not, be pronouncing it as a J as well. And the other slide I want to show you, using the same writing as the footprint and track, carrying this the bird symbol right there, is what we call jack. Jack here, you can see that easily with the picture, is a person's hand trying to catch a bird, and it gradually become the count of a bird, and become the article of a bird. We'd say one jack bird or two jack bird, something like that. Okay, and then this one goes directly to a very common symbol. It become a very common determinative. It's called joy. Whenever we put this part in any Chinese word, it has to tell the reader that it has something to do with a bird. Okay, joy, again, the j sound. Okay, I want you to have this mental concept, and I'll show you a bunch of the world's writing, based on the form of that. And this is the Chinese jerk. And this is linear B. This is found in pre-Greek area, in ancient Greek, before the Greek culture was there. And there is this linear B. And look at this form. It's used as a syllable jo, J-O, jo. Okay, J. And then Coptic, this is Coptic G. And this is Coptic Zeta. And this is Latin G. And now I think you can begin to see that it's actually based on the prototype of a bird. And this is a J, and this is a Z. This is actually to describe the flight of the bird. And Greek, and this is a zeta, and it is known in the academic field that when the linear B words were transcribed to Greek, since they do not have that J sound there, so all Jo, this alphabet was all translated into the zeta right there. Okay, this is the Chinese. We have a similar form, and for us, it carry on with the sound of yin, and it's in our 2000 Euro dictionary, it explained itself as the flight of the bird, and then it gradually referred to a small bird as swallow, and the sound is yin. And you can see this is the G in Greek, but at times other than the G, it also pronounces ya as Y, yin sound, okay? And in Sanskrit, ya yin is actually to mean to fly, okay? And this is Luwian, this is the Z sound. You can see the little bird. And in Cantonese nowadays, we say ji ji za za. It's actually the description of the chirping of the bird. And you have to pay attention to the English word ch too, okay, as I show you on this side of the map. Okay, this is a hieroglyph. This is the god of writing, Jawati, Je, okay. This is obviously the bird Je, and this is Chinese jerk. This is how they refer to a bird. And this is Arabic, and this is depends on whether you are speaking classical Arabic or the dialectic Arabic. You can in classical Arabic it is jim, J, okay, and in dialectic Arabic it is gim, is a hard G, gim, okay. So Persian, this is che, And can you see the bird form? And this is Tamil. Tamil is South Indian. This is Ch here, right here, Ch. And you can see that this actually shares the similarity across, the whole, space from east to west. Okay, and this Devanagari, this is the script that used to write Sanskrit and Hindi and a bunch of Indian languages. This is the J. Can you see that? First of all, it looks like a J, and it also looks like a bird. And this is Ch. Okay, and this is Tibetan. This is Ch. This is J. Can you see the similarity right here? This is Siddham, ancient writing. This is the ancient form of Siddham of Ch. And later it became like this because Siddham was used, to record, Buddhist sutra in the East. The Japanese are still using Siddham to write their Buddhism information and sutra. And this is Cha, and this is Ja. Can you see the similarity? And actually what they call Brahmi, the mother script of all the Indian languages, actually have the Cha in this form. Actually, it is actually more stylized than any other, Indian writing. And some people will jump up, tell me that no, my language doesn't use the J, Ch, Ch or Z sound to describe bird. But don't worry, because there's another way of saying bird, which is proved in hieroglyph. In hieroglyph, they have a bird either landing or a bird flying up. It is pronounced as pa. And pa actually means fly. You see this pa, fa, it's the mutation of the sound. A lot of the other, if they are not using this system, the other system will be using the pa or the fa to describe the bird. And Greek is one of them which use the pa, okay? Anything that flies. And here are two Chinese writing. This is the summarized group of birds represented by one bird perched on a tree. And this is ja. Can you hear the sound? Ja. And this and because it's pictograph and we can actually play with it, sometimes we can actually draw three birds and perch on a tree, and after all it still means grouping things up or assembly. And this is also ja. This is also za. You see, we can actually play with the arrangement of how we put those, and the important thing is to group all those birds together. And if you look up the dictionary, it will spell with a Z, okay, but it's za. But precisely this means jamming things together, and if you speak Arabic, it will be jama. Jama either means synagogue. A synagogue is where people gathered, or jama actually means as a meeting itself. Or if you speak it also a little bit differently, jama is also the university where groups of people go. So as you can see, why in English aggregate you have to have put in so many G's right there, because it's actually started with a visual determinative, long ago. But of course now we glance through reading so fast, we no longer pay attention to them. And also Jabiru is a stork-like bird, which is something like this, if you look at the silhouette. And Jabiru is actually a South American stork bird, family bird. But why in South America they also carry this bird to this sound to name a bird? So I can only guess that this sound to describe a bird was there a long time ago, before people spread out. So I want to talk about the word pedigree. And if you look up the dictionary, it will be from French, pe, the grouse. Grouse is crane, pe is the bird, is the foot itself. And why is the crane so important? You will see it bit by bit. If you look up the dictionary, the pedigree is about the descent of an animal, showing that it's purebred. Once again, human beings pay a lot of attention about purebred. The record for human being is the record ancestry of upper class, people. So I did a Google search, and this is what come up, like the footprint of the bird. Look at that. Why they choose the crane it seems that there is a reason, because all the birds, actually have a different form right there. The most perfectly formed footprint there is actually made by the crane itself. The crane actually is has a very special place in ancient history. In Chinese history, is the symbol of aristocracy. Up till the 200, up to 100 years ago, before the crumbling of the Chinese empire, the crane was still, wear by the top rank official in the Chinese government. So you can tell it's top ranked by the crane itself. And then the English itself, the aristocracy actually came from Greek. Aris itself actually means the top, the head, of also. So the pedigree has a lot of history, and you can see from this, I try to draw out, how we try to record our ancestry. So it normally is indeed in the form of a crane's feet, so there's nothing new about it. But if you look at this, the word again, the Greek itself, I'm trying to follow this word pe right there, right? Okay, the pos in Greek is foot. Linear B, which is the Proto-Greek, they have a sign like this. No one know exactly what it is, but they pronounce it po. But I'll show you a Chinese writing again. This is this, and we actually know that it means the foot of the bird. And as time goes by, it actually linked to another word, and then the sound actually preserved in another word. As you can see, this is the footprint. They actually call it bow. Can you see the bow and bow? And for us, it's the footprint, the step. And then we have another writing, it's the count of men. It actually become the meaning of register, a list, and it become the genealogy and the pole itself. And but the Chinese do not directly use this pole normally in real life. In writing, we use it, but we use mainly the H system. As I explained to you in the last episode, we want to believe that it is a continuation of a thread, when from one generation to another. And I'm sure you have seen a lot of these things, when you go to the Chinese market, and this is nowadays become a simple decoration. But in those old days, it was actually to show your lineage. It's very important to have those expensive jade, handed down from one generation to another generation, to show your noble lineage, to show your aristocratic line. But if we push it even further, we dug out a lot of this pearl decorations, from ancient tombs of emperors. Only emperors were allowed to wear this, along their waist, These are very signs of fertility of the lineage. And because certain people cannot have certain forms, so by looking at what you're wearing around your waist, people can already tell you who you are, what your lineage is. But as time goes by, things become very interesting, because only the aristocratic people can wear those jade, and the jades, as you put them together, they make a very interesting cling sound, and everyone walks in a different gait. So by hearing that cling sound, it's like a melody itself. That's why the pu itself, it also means a musical note. That musical note, that's made by the cling sound when you walk around, actually links to your ancestry. So it's a very complicated way, a three-dimensional way of describing your ancestry. So if you have the right to wear that, a normal person like me, I will never be able to wear any jade on my body with making that cling sound. So but if a person, if you know him or her well enough, the way when he walk, when his or she is angry, or when she's in a hurry, when she's peaceful, you can actually tell by it as a music. So it's a very complicated part of the history if we go really deep into it. So I want you to give a jot to your accepted thinking. So because now we type most of the time, I want you to understand that, you know, really writing by hand is very, very important because it connects your action with your brain. It gives you a very deep understanding in the as the mental concept of all the alphabets. So I give you the example of the G and the J. If you keep writing it, these are all the cursive forms I bring out to you. And then according to the Google search, they always tell you J is a new alphabet. No, but I can tell you it's never new. If you can see it carefully, you know, the G and the J is just a little bit of difference right here. It's a more pointed here. The G and the J is always survive side by side. If I give you a word G-E-R, you will never know whether I want you to pronounce it as G or J, you know, if I don't tell you. So it has to be handed down orally from generation to generation. So a lot of silent reading these days actually has break this continuation. And I want also to show you another way of proving the East and the West sharing very common core. The Latin word for crane is grus, as you can see the marker G right there. And then the Greek word is hieranos, and then hieros actually means old, right? So I'm sure you know the gerontology. It comes back to the J pronunciation right here in English. So you can be sure that this mutation actually goes forward and backward. Mutation, not as the linguist said, never go one direction. They always go forward and backward. We just never know in which direction we are swinging at our own time, okay? And then and group, you explain to you why group has to lead by the G, and then also the gyrate, and then giratus, and actually in Latin actually means to circle around. Why circle around? It's because it is the migratory bird is actually belong to the stork family. Also, I mean, no, crane and the stork also a similar migratory bird, and they actually signifies endless migration in a way. So it means endless. So I want you to see that the ancients confused two birds, either the crane and the chiconia, but both of them actually comes back and bring baby in the springtime. That's what they believe. Okay, I think I'm still going too slow. Yeah, so I think I will stop right here. Thank you very much. I hope you have understood